You know that feeling when you're reading something and you just get lost? All the ideas seem to be there, but they just don't quite connect. Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible architecture of language. Those small, powerful words that act like bridges, turning a jumble of sentences into a clear, compelling journey.
To show you exactly what I mean, let's just dive right in with an example of what happens when those bridges are missing. It's a little jarring. Go on, read that to yourself. You feel that, right? That little bit of friction? It's like your brain is hitting a bunch of tiny speed bumps. All the words are there, sure, but you're the one doing all the heavy lifting to connect the thoughts.
So what's the missing ingredient here? I mean, the grammar is fine, the vocabulary is fine. It's the connective tissue. It's the logical glue that's supposed to hold the whole thing together.
And the solution, it turns out, is a set of words that act just like signposts on a highway. They're these little markers that guide your reader almost effortlessly from one idea to the next. They tell you what's coming up, a contrast, an addition, maybe a conclusion.
So what are they called? Well, they're called cohesive markers. And honestly, learning how to use them is one of the most powerful things you can do for your communication. They are what turn a simple list of facts into a coherent, really persuasive argument.
Let's break down the main categories. I want you to think of this like we're opening up a toolbox for your writing, and inside there's a specific tool for every single connection you might want to make. Okay, first up, we've got the markers that add information. These are the ones you reach for when you want to build on a point you just made, kind of like adding another layer of evidence or another supporting thought.
I'm willing to bet you use these all the time, maybe without even thinking about it. But words like in addition or furthermore aren't just filler, no way. They're signals to your reader that say, hey, I'm building on what I just said, which makes your argument feel stronger and way more robust.
Now look at how furthermore works here. It doesn't just toss in a random fact. It seamlessly adds another consequence, reinforcing that original point about the negative effects. It's basically telling the reader, pay attention, because here's another really important reason why this all matters.
All right, next up in our toolbox, we've got the words that pivot your argument. These are absolutely crucial for showing an opposing viewpoint or introducing a totally different, contrasting idea.
These guys are so important for creating balanced, credible arguments. They signal to your reader, hey, I've thought about the other side of this, which, funny enough, makes your own position seem that much more convincing. And this is a brilliant example of that pivot in action. That first sentence makes a pretty clear statement, but that one word, however, it immediately signals a critical counterpoint that completely challenges that first thought. It creates tension, it creates nuance. It's fantastic.
Now these markers, these are all about logic. They're the ones that explicitly connect an action to a reaction, a cause to its consequence, a reason to a result.
So what these words do is build a crystal clear chain of logic for your reader. You're not just listing facts anymore. You're actively showing them how one thing leads directly to another. You're finally explaining the why.
You can just see that clean line of logic here, right? The government did X. As a result, Y happened. This little phrase removes any doubt. It directly links the action to the outcome. It's direct, it's clear, and it's really, really persuasive.
Okay, so we've seen the tools in the toolbox. Now let's actually put one to work. Remember that clunky, confusing paragraph from the very beginning? Let's go back to it and see what just a single one of these words can do.
And there it is. Look at that. Just by adding one simple word, because, we've built a logical bridge. Suddenly the idea isn't just silly, it's silly for a reason. The sentence is instantly clear and the reader doesn't have to stop and figure out the connection for themselves.
But, and this is important, it's not just about randomly dropping these markers into your sentences. The specific word you choose really, really matters. It can subtly change the tone, the emphasis, and the whole impact of what you're saying.
Just listen to the difference in power here. But just gives you a simple contrast. But the second version using nevertheless does something much more sophisticated. It acknowledges the first point, yep, the lettering matters, while strongly emphasizing that the primary activity is something else. It basically says, even though that first part is true, this next part is way more important.
So, after all this, what's the big takeaway here? We've talked about a bunch of small words, but why do they have such a huge impact?
Look, this isn't about following some dusty old rules from a textbook. This is about gaining a communication superpower. When you consciously use these markers, you make everything you write and say clearer, more logical, and just way more persuasive. You get to take control of the story.
When you master these little signposts, you go from being someone who just gives information to being an architect of understanding. You're not just handing people facts anymore, you're actually designing the journey they take through your ideas. So the only real question left is, where are you going to build your next bridge?